15 present, 1 absent constitutes a quorum. All business conducted to be official. Next item on the agenda be the quarterly report. Principal Chief James R. Floyd.
Stay. Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here this morning and present the report from the second quarter of the fiscal year from the executive branch, and to be back in the council house. It really feels historic today because the microphone's not working, and just like the old days when they didn't have it, so I had to rely on those lungs this morning and keep it going. I wanted to just summarize the report, the second quarter report that each of the council members should have. I think it was presented to you earlier this week, and I'll just take a few minutes and highlight some of the significant changes from quarter to quarter. I'd like to report that the number of employees of the executive branch for the second quarter was 2,008, and the total payroll cost for the second quarter was $19,697,000. At the end of the second quarter, the permanent fund was $384,491,000. That's an increase of $12.1 million from the first quarter. And the total gaming revenue is up by 3.49% from this time, second quarter of fiscal year 18. I wanted to just highlight a little bit about the Department of Justice, the workload increases for the services under the Attorney General, and state that the workload continues to increase, and as they continue to have responsibilities in different areas. In particular, the number of cases open, the criminal felony cases were 17 during this quarter. Legal services cases were total of 58, and child support cases opened this past quarter were 57. And so they continue to see their workload climb. Under human resource management, they were able to bring on 59 new hires this past quarter under the tribal side and 63 under the health department. And on March 4th this past year, we had our annual ethics training, and we had over 400 employees attend in person. It was filmed, and so the remainder of our employees will view that online. And then again this year, Second Chief and I will sign the certificates for the completion of the mandatory ethics training, which has been well received by the staff. In the Department of Health, they continue to pursue their goals, and I just want to report on some of them. First of all, the patient satisfaction scores have increased 6% in the past quarter as they continue to meet their score goals. The department saw 30,261 patients in the clinics during the second quarter, and those visits increased by 2,687, or almost 9%. I think it was 9.7, excuse me, almost 10%. It's 9.7% as opposed to the first quarter. So the healthcare system continues to grow. In addition, third-party collections continue to increase as well. For the quarter, they were $16,706,000, a $3 million or 23% increase from this time last year. Of note also is that they have started a pain management and opioid addiction program, and so they held a conference on March 27th at River Spirit, which some of you may have attended. There were approximately 150 people from the communities and employees and other interested community members that attended, and I was there myself. It was very professional and I think very helpful to everyone on information about opioid addiction. In the Department of Community and Human Services, Children and Family Services continue to be very active, and recently they attended a state reunification and permanency conference, and were able to have a meeting with Tulsa County judges to discuss the availability of programs within the Muscogee Creek Nation and the role they have in the courtrooms. And during this quarter, as an example of their workload, they assisted 484 children and attended 362 hearings in state and tribal court. Also of note in that department is the energy heating system program, assistance program ended on March 29th. And the energy program assisted 833 citizens this past season and spent a total of $333,000 in assisting them. So we're very proud of that program and look forward to it continuing. In the Department of Education, note that they were awarded $70,000. They have awarded up to $70,000 to 31 local schools in STEM grants. And these grants, as you may be aware, science, technology, engineering, and math. And the change they have is to allow the schools to design their individual programs. It's been highly successful, and with 31 of our schools out of 67 getting grants, it's almost 50% of our public school systems within the Muscogee Creek Nation were able to benefit. Also of note is the program that's unique that they started this year. It's what they call a formal wear drive program for high school students planning to go to prom. And during this past year, the initial year they had this, individuals donated more than 75 dresses and suits, and those were then provided to more than 60 students that were able to be dressed for prom at no cost. And I think that's a wonderful program. They will continue to do this again next year. So suits and prom dresses, I think very expensive sometimes, and to be able to have those and someone else can use them, I think it's very helpful. So I want to commend all the staff for volunteering to do that this past year. In higher education, they assisted 2,422 students with grants and scholarships awarded to them during this quarter, and it totaled more than $3.5 million. I want to just, under the Department of Education, highlight two other recognitions. One is under the Johnson O'Malley program. It's the Challenge Bowl, and so I think we had a very successful Challenge Bowl in 2019. And in doing so, at the elementary schools, we had 18 schools in the elementary competition, one community, and a total of 35 teams. The middle school competition had 15 school systems, 2 communities, and 46 teams. And the high school competition had 13 schools, 1 community, 1 organization, and 32 teams. In total, 541 students from within and outside our boundaries competed in the Challenge Bowl competition this year. So that continues to grow as well. We're very pleased with that. Second, the Muscogee Creek Nation Johnson O'Malley School Program received national recognition at the National JOM Conference in Las Vegas in March. The exemplary program for Region A, that recognition went to Henrietta Public Schools. The national at-large recognition went to Union Public Schools, and Jackie White, retired teacher administrator at Union Public Schools, received the Educator of the Year Award, and Nancy Petticord received the Teacher of the Year Award for Region 3. So Muscogee Creek Nation was highlighted in the National Johnson O'Malley Conference, and so we're very pleased with their contributions. In the Department of Interior Affairs, I want to first of all talk about the Historic and Cultural Preservation Program. Their workload continues to increase as well, and during this past quarter, they reviewed 1,468 projects under the National Historic Preservation Act. They attended 10 government-to-government tribal consultations with federal agencies, and they also participated in the Native American Graves Protection Act, Repatriation Act, meetings as well. So they've, again, been very busy. The numbers that they receive each quarter in reviewing projects under the Historic Preservation Act just continue to skyrocket. So, Raylyn, I want to thank you and your staff, and I know you sacrifice a lot of your time by having to travel, but we're very grateful for what you do in looking after our culture and historic preservation locations throughout the United States. They also completed the repatriation and reburial of 29 remains from the National Museum of the Health and Medicine in Silver Springs, Maryland. The remains originally came from Moundville and were reburied by the Muscogee Creek Nation and the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma in the state of Alabama. So again, looking after our historic and remains and making sure that they are reinterred appropriately. In the agribusiness department, I want to talk about the Ag Youth Program. The 6th annual All Indian Livestock Show was a great success this year. Another program that's expanding so much, may have to find another location for it or extend it. I don't know, but its own success is great. They over $13,000 in prize money and prizes was distributed to winning exhibitors this year, and so I want to thank Carly and your staff for putting this on. It's a great event. Also, I just want to report a little bit on the council house here that falls under Department of Interior. In the last quarter, they had 469 visitors to this site, so the interest here continues to grow as well. And in the realty department, as you know, that on December 31st, the President signed the acts to Stigler Act amendments, or the 47 Act amendments. With the implementation of the law, Realty's been very busy. They have produced a pamphlet, kind of the frequently asked questions pamphlet that they have available to any citizen who may want to receive that. They have done outreach to communities and other departments within the Muscogee Creek Nation to explain their services, to explain the Stigler Act amendments and the impact that has within the Muscogee Creek Nation. They also made note that they were able to help one of our citizens who is 99 years old under their program, and I think that's pretty significant as well, because it just shows the range of the things that they provide and the range of ages that they provide, from the young to the very old. Under the Department of Commerce, under Tourism and Recreation, I think we're all aware of the success of the improvements of the Muscogee Dome. I just want to make note of a couple things. In January, they hosted the OKMULGEE County basketball tournament. They had a pretty large crowd each of the 6 days, and it was the largest in the county's history. And so the return back to the schools was larger than has been in the past. The Dome also hosted the Class B regional tournament and the Class 3A area tournament at the Dome. The gate receipts were over $50,000, and the concessions were more than $30,000, and it's estimated that more than 10,000 people attended. And I know one night was probably a record crowd for the Dome, as there were several hundred people standing. So it has been a success, and I want to thank all those that were involved. We used a number of volunteers from the executive branch and in the community, and I want to thank all of you as well. They are planning for the festival that will be held June 20th to 23rd, so they're very busy at this time, and next quarter we'll report on the success of the festival. I also want to take note that under public relations, the Facebook page followers grew by 7.1% this quarter. Of note, the most viewed content was of citizen Pearl Thomas, who sang at one of the tournament games, I think 2 nights, I believe. She sang the national anthem in Muscogee, and that has had more than 21,000 views for one thing. And so just shows the interest in our culture, the Dome, and just the activity of our citizens. So I don't think Pearl's here today, but we'll give thanks to her. Great job that she did, and thank you, Pearl. In the Department of Housing, I know they've been focusing on recertifications, and that's something that hadn't been done in the past. It's been slow, but it's really picking up momentum at this point. During the past quarter, we completed 152 recertifications in the housing management, and rental properties had 37 recertifications, and they continued with inspections, and I think they had more than 150 inspections this last quarter, and I know that they completed over 300 work orders. Of note in housing is some of us were able to participate in the groundbreaking of the Elderly Village project here in OKMULGEE. They're working with a firm from, it's called New Fire Native Design, who's completing the plans and the designs and specs for the site. That will be single-family units on 36 acres on North Mission Road. And so we look forward to the completion of that, and we'll be reporting on that quarterly as well. Just like to also just highlight a few other things in Light Horse Administration. I know Chief Hawkins here this morning. I want to thank him and the officers for the work that they do 24/7 and looking after us and keeping us safe. But I think of note, there's several things. They did receive a COPS Tribal Resource Grant this past year of $829,000. That will enable Light Horse to purchase 20 new police units this year, replace some that they're wearing out. So we're very pleased for them in that regard. But a particular note is their interaction with other law enforcement agencies. And so the U.S. Marshals Task Force of Eastern Oklahoma swore in a Light Horse captain as a member of the task force in an effort to aid in apprehending major felony offenders within the Muscogee Creek Nation boundaries and southeastern Oklahoma. So we're very proud that we've got somebody involved at the federal level to help coordinate between the tribe and the U.S. Marshals Service. And also the Light Horse Investigations Division signed a court plea agreement with the U.S. Attorney's Office Northern District out of Tulsa, and a violent criminal subject resulting in more than 30 years in federal prison. So that's already paying off in the interaction that we have at the federal level. And that particular case, there was weapons involved, drugs, counterfeit money. So, you know, the efforts are making significant contributions in trying to stem the tide of crime within the Muscogee Creek Nation. Note also just a couple other things in the Office of Public Gaming. We now have an executive director, Tracy Burris, was hired, and he came on in March, and so I know he's not here this morning, but we're very pleased to have him here. And finally, with our Veterans Affairs Office, during the past quarter, they were able to secure and get approved funds for surviving spouses that total more than $83,000. I think that's significant. And the back pay for awards for veteran claims were $43,000 during this quarter. So again, we continue to see improvement across the executive branch and independent agencies. And so I'm pleased this morning just stand here and provide an update for you. Glad to answer any questions that you have. And again, refer you to the executive branch quarterly report. That will be available online as well as to the Muscogee media, so you'll be hearing more about that as well. So, Mr. Speaker, this time I'll turn the time back over to you. Thank you. Hello.